Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well this evening. So, this evening, I wanted to go through a video that I thought was kind of important to go through and discuss because a lot of people are going to find it so alarming when we go through this video, and we're going to pause throughout and kind of discuss the nuance of what's happening. But essentially, it's about credit scores, and we're talking about social credit scores. Now, if you haven't heard about social credit scores, you're going to be hearing about it a lot in this video, so it doesn't matter. So you're going to see what the social credit scores are all about. Now, this is one of the big things that the World Economic Forum pushes: digital IDs, data harvesting, all this stuff. So the thing is, we're going to be going into that and all the nuance around it. And we're going to be going through this video from CNBC, which I, I watched it and I couldn't believe it because this was in 2019. And a lot of these things are now in place and have already been tested and trialed across the country. So it's going to be really interesting and we're going to dig into it. So let's pull up this video and get ready, guys, because you're all right. Let's do this. Okay, so I gotta make sure my volume is up.
So, picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked. The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen and determines what you're allowed to do, like ever. Boarding a train, getting a mortgage.
So, firstly, I want to pause it there because one thing that's evident straight away through all this is the fact that it's, board a train, board a plane. And no, it's not to the point of getting a mortgage and everything like that. But in Quebec, it was going to the grocery store, it was going to any big box store. So essentially, the World Economic Forum, it's hard to imagine how the passports that everybody had here in Canada weren't a trial of a social credit score, like to see how everybody responded to it. And obviously, people didn't respond to it well, in certain jurisdictions, worse than others. But it is incredible when you think about it, isn't it? Because still to this day, a lot of people in Canada, they can't get on a plane or a train, which is exactly what this is on about. Now, if you'd said this to me in 2019, if I'd gone through this video, it would have been incredibly different to now, where we've had a lot of these things trialed and tested, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, a lot of them are still in place. So it's quite interesting.
All goes back to this score. It's called social credit. It sounds like that show Black Mirror, but it's actually happening in China. So how does that change you? Does it change you? What does your life look like when your every move is watched? The system's eyes are in big data, artificial intelligence, and roughly 200 million surveillance cameras.
So the system that they use in there is using AI and CCTV. And that's essentially how they're doing all this social credit scoring stuff, and also the data harvesting that goes on in the background with things like bank accounts and stuff like that is also incredibly important. So they're going through all your transaction history and everything like that to dig out what they deem is good or bad. Now, the thing is, this even got took even more to an extreme, because what happened was it basically got took to an extreme with the trucker convoy, because they had their accounts frozen, which was essentially like a social credit score type of thing, because they didn't have that social credit according to the government. So the creep show trend. So they basically didn't have it. So it's really interesting, this.
And that's totally fine with Oh Young Hao-yu. She's 21, graduated from a good school with solid grades. She's diligent. She's nice. No surprise, she's a 752. That's her rating with Sesame Credit, a private company working with the government on the algorithms for the social.
Private companies, are we surprised to see them in there?
Credit system. The scores go from 350 to 950 and are based on habits and behavior. Buy clothes or diapers, it's good. A lot of alcohol, too many video games, not so good. How use 750?
So essentially, they're deciding what you do, which is just insane. That is exactly what the government wants, essentially, which is this power over us to be able to manipulate us to do whatever they want, which has become evident. And it's almost like they've been trialing this with the Potion Masters cure at the moment, because that's been a great way to test run something like that, which I think is definitely does your score go down when you finger another driver when they cut you? That could mean two things, Trent. Fingering someone in England is oh god, I'm not going to go into that too far. But anyway, if it's all CCTV and AI, then yeah, even if you toss something out the window or something like that, the CCTV is going to capture that, and then the data harvesting machines of AI are going to use that to bring your score down. And then who knows, you might not be able to take that train, take that flight, and who knows what's happening if you protest against something the government doesn't like. That's when they put you on a blacklist. And I've got this all on the whiteboard and how it connects to the World Economic Forum and everything like that. And I'm going to be explaining it more in depth in a video. But whilst I went through the research for this video, I was just shocked, and I thought I got to get on a live stream and show you all this, because you will just be blown away by the similarities in this video between what we see now in present day Canada and what is going on in China.
52 puts her in model citizen range and gets her discounts and privileges.
Model citizen range.
Like using a shared bike without a deposit. She likes it. Her friends do too. They all have pretty high scores.
She likes it. Her friends do too. They've all got pretty high scores. Of course, you're going to like it when you got pretty high scores.
Mechanism like pushes you to become a better citizen, to build on
in the eyes of the government, remember?
Trust, especially on the Chinese market.
Because you're not going to be punished if you haven't done anything wrong.
I think that's the point. I think the system is working as a warning or an alert to push people to do it, to be a good person.
To push people.
It's mandatory. When it goes national, social credit scores will be assigned to every one of China's citizens for life. And what's weird is that so many people seem okay with it. It's complicated, but China went from extreme poverty to economic giant pretty quickly. The credit history system didn't grow at the same pace, so people would default on loans and get away with it. Add in scandals around fake food, tainted baby milk, counterfeit goods, and what you've got is a big problem with trust. So, in 2014, the Communist Party called for a system to allow the trustworthy to roam everywhere under heaven, while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. The model is a place called Rongcheng. It's in Shandong province. It's orderly. Streets are spotless. Cars slow down, which is unheard of in China. Words like honesty and credibility appear on propaganda posters. Display cases show pictures of Wrongtong's most honored citizens. You start with 1,000 points, and you can print out your report anytime. You lose points for things like jaywalking, littering, tossing cigarette butts, or spreading rumors.
Spreading rumors. What constitutes as spreading rumors? I mean, that's a pretty funny one. My Alberta ID is coming soon. Yeah, exactly. Unless we push back against this, this is where we're going on a massive slippery slope here.
A lot of the surveillance work, but it's pretty analog too, like posters that list the ways you can gain or lose points. And each night, local TV shows the surveillance highlights of the day.
That is just insane when you think about it, isn't it? That it's on local TV, it's going to be the state-owned news, isn't it, that's broadcasting this sort of stuff. And we've got so many state-funded media outlets here in Canada. I could see them exactly doing this. And I mean, they kind of did this already with the convoy and trying to demonize that. You know, it's really incredible, this, I find. And I don't know if you guys find it too.
And then there's Joe I Need. She's an information collector, a paid enforcer who walks around and writes down deeds about her neighbors. Like the man who carried a drunk person home. Things like this are good deeds, she said. But the farmer overheard swearing and being rude. Yeah, bad deeds.
So they essentially get people to do the dirty work for them as well, acting as paid informers. And you may think that this is crazy and this is tinfoil hat, but we've already had many of the things, especially Canada and Europe especially. And when I was speaking to my granddad actually at the weekend, I was kind of knocked back because he was talking about how in Germany now, they've got these parking things where essentially you pay for parking based on the emissions of your car, which sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Until you really look at who owns the really brand new, expensive cars that have the good emissions and those who own the older cars who have the worse emissions, and they're essentially paying more. And obviously it's the poorer people, it's the more working class people that are paying more, whilst the rich and the elite get away with it. Now, this sort of thing, even though small, is essentially social credit scoring. It's doing it bit by bit. We are being brainwashed, I think, to believe that this is accepted. And the passports that were brought out nationwide, there's no coincidence in that every single province in Canada had a rollout, all roughly within a month of each other. That's not a coincidence. That came from the federal level, and I guarantee there was some sort of funding or it was probably to do with money. I can tell you that much, especially if places like Saskatchewan and Alberta did it. So we've already had certain themes of this trialed, which is scary enough. So
her quota is 10 a month. She likes the work, thinks the city's better for it. The thing about the social credit system is that there isn't one single system, not yet. Different places have different rules. So what do you do if you have bad social credit? Well, for one, you talk about it on Weibo, which is like Twitter. There are forums for discredited people to vent and get advice.
Doesn't that sound sort of familiar?
In Chongqing, we hooked up with Huang Huijun. He had a business until he was sued by a client, and Huang refused to pay 90 grand to settle it. So the court put him on a social credit blacklist, and things got way worse. He explains that being blacklisted means he can't buy air.
I wonder, hey, you probably think the AI and the surveillance has probably seen that he's speaking out about this news report, and it's going to go down even more. He needs to stop.
Airplane or train tickets.
Can't buy airplane or train tickets. Does that sound familiar? Because if you haven't got the passport system in Canada, you still can't go on a train and you can't go on a plane. Remember that. So that is essentially still there. A lot of these mandates are still there.
When he tries, a message pops up saying he's discredited. By the end of last year, blacklisted people were blocked from booking 23 million flights and 5 million high-speed train trips. And the list goes on. Being discredited makes it hard to get a job, a loan, a hotel room.
Hard to get a job. What did they do with the cerveza sickness and the mandates? Again, this is like all fundamentals of a social credit scoring system that if we all just blindly accept it, and luckily there are a lot of us that stand up for freedom and liberty, even though there's a lot of people as well who are just totally brainwashed. They're okay with this, they think that's fine, and they just don't realize this slippery slope that we're heading down if we just blindly accept this, as is outlined in this video, how the Chinese people just blindly accept it.
Or put kids in certain schools. Then there's the public shaming, photo galleries of blacklisted citizens. There's even an app that shows who around you is in debt. In China, being monitored is nothing new. But algorithmic surveillance makes it possible to collect data to build detailed profiles.
And don't you think China is trying to get ahead of the curve here, and then they will be selling this technology to Western countries to do the same thing? And for the surveillance part, I mean, the UK is, I used to live, obviously I'm from England, and I used to live in the UK. And compared to Canada, the amount of surveillance that is in the UK is absolutely insane, especially in the city of London. There's barely a corner that you can go to that you're not actually on camera. So the thing is, they also do monitor people. Now, it's not done by AI, but soon enough, it will be done by AI, and it will be automatic. And in that case, it's even more easy to spot what's going on. Because if you think about a human, can a human really monitor hundreds and hundreds of cameras? I mean, they have one person looking at like 10, 20, 30 cameras. There's no way that their brain can take in all that information and see what's going on for each one. So I find it incredibly interesting how this could be justified, especially if it was in a sense, well, we need this, it's for your security. And there's always going to be this argument somehow. It's not just going to be, we're bringing this in. It's going to be, we're bringing this in because maybe it's because there's a Russian threat and there's threat of spies being in the country. So we now need to monitor you more closely. We're going to use these social credit scoring things. So it is coming. It's just a question of when this comes.
Profiles of people, especially the ones not loyal to the government.
Oh, we know that all too well with what's happened with the truckers. If you're not loyal to the government, if you hold views that the government doesn't like, then they'll freeze your bank accounts, they'll arrest you. And what I found kind of absolutely insane, and I'm surprised nobody has drawn the comparison with this, is if you look at Russia and the fact that they were arresting protesters for peacefully protesting about the war in Ukraine. And imagine if they'd stayed in the square in Moscow and they'd occupied it, so to speak. So imagine if they'd done that. Would I guarantee all those people that were against the truckers and everything like that would be going, yeah, that's a great thing. That's a great thing. And then if you ask them, do you think it's right that they were arrested for peacefully protesting, even though they were occupying the center of Moscow? And they would say, no, that's fine, go, because it simulates with their interests and their beliefs. But when it's the truckers and it's something they don't agree with necessarily, or it's on their doorstep, like this NIMBY type of attitude, which is prevalent throughout Canada, then it's like, oh no, we don't want that. Arrest them, freeze their bank accounts, and all the rest of it. And that is just, it's the start of a bad situation.
All the video surveillance cameras on the planet right now, nearly half of them are in China. Are people bothered by privacy concerns?
So we think the lot of camera keep the safety is really good thing. A lot of people we can accept it.
And cameras are getting smarter. So the information that
So the way it's obviously been peddled down to them is that it's all about your safety. And again, I think this is how it will come through over here. It will take a crisis. Unfortunately, who knows what that could be? But imagine that there's some sort of crisis, explosion, or I don't know, some type of disaster event which makes everybody throw into the question security, and then there's a reason to bring out this surveillance AI system, and then from that they can build into the credit scores. I don't think it would be straight away, but the AI CCTV cameras and everything like that, that technology is well proven. It's already there and it's already in use. This isn't tinfoil hat stuff. This is actually going on, guys.
That comes up for my image. Identifies that I'm female, middle-aged, talks about whether I'm wearing glasses, the shape of my face. AI is taking them next level. They can do more than just see. They actually understand who they're seeing. So at what point can the technology know too much? Does it already?
Most time, people don't care about it.
Oh, we recognize that, don't we? QR code. Remember, this was in 2019. This was in 2019, guys. Remember that.
But if the technology learns too much, for example, cross the red line, it's not very good.
How far off are we from needing to draw those red lines?
It's very hard to say. I think maybe decades, I mean 10 years or 20 years, 15 years, maybe.
That's not very long.
Yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming.
And where does it all go?
你好，谢谢。
How You isn't so bothered. Her Sesame score is high. Life is good and she's used to living most of it online. Soon, her education and medical records and any run-ins with the law.
Education, medical records.
Will factor into her social credit score.
And guys, when you think about what happened with the truckers, especially, think about the data, I forgot what they call it, the DDoS attack. Think about that, because people's data was breached and then exploited, and it was publicized all over social media, Twitter, everything like that, which is essentially like this naming and shaming system where they were naming and shaming businesses and people that had donated to the convoy, which is totally wrong. But again, this is the type of system that you have when you have social credit scoring. And it's just kind of insane the amount of how far along we've got in this just by the trucker convoy and the Cerveza sinners. Like, if you played me this in 2019, I would have said, there's no way that that sort of technology would ever be coming to Canada. And now I believe it's more of a certainty. It's just a case of when it's going to happen, unless there's a big change in government.
And wherever she goes, someone will follow and ask, who can you trust?
Hey, NBC News viewers.
Yeah, so who can you trust? And I just find it incredibly interesting, that video, and looking into the social credit scoring system. It's just kind of, I mean, I've been plotting it out all on the whiteboard here. And when you really look at it, that really explains why the world global elite really want this, because then they have all the power to do everything. They can scrutinize our every move, and there would be nothing. We would be powerless, because if you don't say the right things, do the right things in the eyes of the government, then they're going to blacklist you, and that means you can't travel anywhere. That means you can't buy anything. You know, they limit everything. And you saw different aspects of this implemented very, very recently. Freezing of bank accounts, you could equate to blacklisting. The people who were donating to the convoy, a lot of them got blacklisted. So we freeze your bank accounts. You can't pay your bills. You can't do anything. Okay. And it's a very vague term, like Freeland, the woman. It's hard to say her name without an accompanying fruit of profanity. But the thing is, guys, when you think about what Freeland said, and she essentially said, if you want your bank account unfrozen, stop being part of the convoy. Well, that is really difficult to define, though, isn't it? Because how do you honestly define that? It's difficult. It's really difficult. It's very vague. And that's the way they like to keep it, because then those people are blacklisted. And the other thing is, guys, which is really interesting, which I didn't know when I was looking into the World Economic Forum, was the World Economic Forum has ties with Russia. So think about that. And it's kind of incredible when you think about the digital ID system that they're pushing and how that relates to the social credit scoring system that's in Japan, in China right now being used. So it is just really, really crazy. Yeah, my social credit score just went down. So it is just, but yeah, this is what it would become, because AI is already watching us. And the thing is, all these algorithms right now, as we're producing this video, algorithms on YouTube are listening to what I'm saying. They're listening to make sure that what I'm saying is the correct thing. Then after this video ends, the algorithm then processes it, because this video will then go into like a processing sequence where the algorithm goes through it as well. So it is very, very interesting, I find, and scary at the same time, because so many people were oblivious to the fact of what was going on with all this stuff. Like, these passports were the biggest slippery slope. You know, that was social credit scoring 101. You didn't do what the government thought was what they wanted you to do, which was to get the potion master's cure, whether you think that's right or wrong. You didn't do that, so you can't go to the restaurant. You can't go to the gym, even though that makes you a healthy person. So the thing is, this has already been put in, and a lot of people are oblivious to it. So if they said, you know, there are some people, I know it's crazy to imagine on this channel, but there are some people out there that are thinking, oh my God, I wish the passport was still there, because they felt like they were an elite, like a sort of an elite over these other people, because you totally divide classes. But it's when they come for them, it's when the government says, okay, we don't want you to if you eat too much junk food, or you drink too much alcohol, or you smoke too many cigarettes, guess what? You have to pay more, because after all, you're going to cost the healthcare system more. So why does it matter? Everything seems logical, doesn't it? But it is such a slippery slope and goes far, far from freedom and liberty. Then you are just completely and utterly controlled. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being on the stream. CTR, Captain Vanaroo, Trent, Mr. Fool, and everybody else who came for the stream. Have a watch through this video. I'll chuck it in the chat here so everybody can see it. Those that watch this after it's been streamed, if you just hit live chat on your phone or whatever, you'll see the link to the video. But go through that and seriously think about what's happened in Canada and Europe, and just think about it, because it is gonna blow your mind. And watch out, because the whiteboard about the World Economic Forum and the credit scores, that's going to be coming in a week or two. I got to film it first and edit it. I've only just got it drawn up, because this has took a lot of research and a lot of thinking about to get this all up there. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next stream. Peace, guys. Bye-bye.